Hey everyone, my name is Nick, and I am your world champion. I'm pissed. So last year, my friend Holden, who I refer to only as H-Man, introduced me to a show that I had heard of my entire life, but I had never seen. How I Met Your Mother, which I would come to eventually refer to as How I Met Your Guma. Guma was the mafia term used for a side chick, which I had just learned from a TV show I had finished called The Sopranos, which I called the greatest TV show I'd ever seen until I saw Succession, but I'm getting off topic. H-Man showed me How I Met Your Guma, and I fell in love immediately. I love the fact that Josh Radnor got to be the star of the show because no one had heard who he fucking was. That's how you save money on the budget. And you add in a wonderfully strong supporting cast that Neil Patrick Harris, Jason Segel, Allison Hannigan, and Kobe Smulders, which is a fun name to say. The show had a wonderful charm with its comedy. The way it was able to make adult jokes so the older audience doesn't feel like the show's getting dumbed down to them, while still having jokes any kid watching would have enjoyed, and the writers were clever with it during the entire run. The way the show snuck in a literal countdown without taking away from the story, along with the choices made to help us progress through it itself when we felt like it was getting stale. The writers threw something new at the audience to prove that they knew exactly what they were doing. In an example throughout the series, Bob Saget acts as the grown elder voice for Ted Mosby. And it's important to note, Josh Radnor never becomes Ted Mosby. We never see that connection. Also, Justin from Wizards of Waverly Place is Ted's kid, and that's kind of funny. So when I decided to give How I Met Your Father a chance, I was sorely let down at what I was watching. It felt like a task at hand just trying to finish the episode. You know when you and your friends are watching a TV show that's so bad, but you can make jokes about the whole thing, so it's still an enjoyable experience? That's not the theme song. It felt like I was living in that scene from A Clockwork Orange.
The best first date I'd ever been on. A date so good, you don't even check your phone.
Stop it, please, I beg you!
Stripped away was all the charm. The jokes weren't hitting at all. It felt like the writers were given a pop quiz on millennials and none of them understood the assignment. The best part was the theme song, and it didn't even win the award for best theme song. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You can all stop clapping now. And the nominations for the best TV show theme song are Malcolm in the Middle, How I Met Your Father, Family Man, Succession, and The Sopranos. And the winner is Succession. Are any of you fucking surprised? How I Met Your Father does a lot of things wrong, and if you can give me a couple minutes, I'm gonna rant about it. Starting off, take a look at this group. These people do not look like a group of friends. They look like actors waiting to get paid.
Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
First off, we have Hilary Duff, and I like her. For all the things this show does wrong, Hilary Duff does a good job of what they're giving her. I think she has an actual nice charm as herself. She seems very caring to the world around her, and if she's going to be the Ted Mosby of the series, I'm fine with that. Ted was drunk on love in How I Met Your Mother, and was ready to throw the word around like it was Freshman with White Claws.
Listen, I just fucking drank a fucking White Claw. We were out of White Claws for a while, and I saw this one White Claw, and I was like, fuck. That looked delicious. It was already open. There were about 20 cigarette butts in that White Claw.
By the way, they call her Sophie in the series, but I'm probably going to end up using that interchangeably. So Hilary Duff isn't even the first person we see in this series. Much like how we started in How I Met Your Mother, it's the future, and we see Elder Sophie, which is the problem. You remember when I brought up Bob Saget acting as the internal voice for Ted Mosby? The reason why that works is because, I mean, well, everyone has an internal voice. It could have been Dikembe Mutombo for all I care.
Not in my house.
But Bob Saget never physically becomes Ted Mosby. You don't need to worry about these two different actors needing to end up becoming the same character at some point in time. I can kind of see it in the face, but the more this episode goes on, the more and more I feel solidified in my stance at the fact I just don't think this is the same character when 28 years goes by. In an interesting twist too, they don't show the kid, which I like. It leaves ambiguity at who Sophie's gonna end up marrying, and we also know from a line of dialogue too that Sophie's husband is in this episode, we just don't know who it is. It might be one of the side characters, or a random extra in the background. Maybe it's Dikembe Mutombo. Oh man, I wish it was Dikembe because all these side characters are shit. I've only watched the first episode one time, so maybe if I go through it again, I might like it the second time around. This new How I Met Your Father? It's not good. Episode 1 initiates with Sophie being late to a Tinder date. Oh, bars! And I'll give it to them for the concept of trying to find the person you plan to marry in a world where there really are just countless people that mindlessly swipe right at while you sit on the toilet. Sophie gets into an Uber where we meet her driver. Mind you, this is the first time that these two are meeting. His name is Jesse, and I'm sorry, but he fucking blows. I know it's very silly for me to make jokes about someone's personal appearance that they have no control over, so making fun of it makes no sense. But, I mean, look at this guy's face. I can't root for this guy. In the same car hitching a ride is Jesse's friend Sid. Let me tell you about Sid. He's pretty cool. They all begin to have themselves a chitty chat where Sid tells everyone that he plans on proposing to his girlfriend, much like in the first episode of Guma when Marsha proposed to Lily. Sid says that he set up his proposal in the form of a Beyonce concert, and sadly, Queen Bee is not going to be in this episode. Jesse asks Sophie where he's driving for and what for, and in what's our first chance at getting a look at these introspective characters, Sophie begins to open up about her struggles with drugs and alcohol and the way that it affected. I'm sorry, I'm lying to you. I'm lying. Sophie really begins to open up about her problematic past on Tinder, the other drugs society's on, and she begins to describe to Sid and Jesse about how it feels like every Tinder date has become a hailstorm of guys saying the dumbest shit.
Like I just had sex.
It seems like she was set to throw in the towel on the whole virtual dating thing. You see, when she left her date with this dingus,
I just had sex.
Sophie was ready to swear off Tinder for good. That was until she got matched with Ian.
You matched with Ian? She matched with Ian.
Yeah.
And they start getting to know each other. Ian's first celebrity crush was Tia Mowry, who was one half of the set of twins that was on the ABC sitcom Sister Sister. But I can't help but think that having a preference between two people that look the exact same is utterly hilarious. It's like saying you have a preference between who's hotter, Mary-Kate or Ashley Olsen. While for Sophie, her first celebrity crush was... oh, what?
Buzz Lightyear.
An astronaut made of plastic. Freaky.
Do you see what I'm saying about these jokes? It is it just... it might just be me. It very well might just be me. But I really hope it's not. We learn Sophie is a photographer who's looking to make ends meet. And Ian is a marine biologist. Seems a little fishy to me. With Sophie on her way to meet Ian at what she's called her last first date ever, it leaves Jesse to chime in on the realistic side of things, saying that Sophie has a better chance of seeing Kevin James become a UFC fighter. Oh wait, I stand corrected. Jesse gives Sophie her phone and she is bound to see her Prince Charming. As Sophie leaves the car, Jesse eyes her down, totally not weird. Sid gets Jesse to admit that he likes Sophie, which is where my first major gripe with this show comes in. This isn't how people meet! If you gained affection for someone that you had just met, I'm sorry, but I would still be proposing to the barista at Starbucks. And gripe number 2. Oh what? There's no pandemic anymore? Where's everybody's masks? But then, Ian hits Sophie with the big news. He's been offered a big-time job in Australia, mate. He's gonna box kangaroos and eat a Vegemite sandwich and drink a fucking VB long neck at 20 of 8 in the fucking morning. Sophie goes back home and is met by her roommate Valentina, who isn't wearing pants for some reason. I don't know why. The two talk about how the date went and how on paper, Ian really is the dude for Sophie. But before they get into what some may call the nitty-gritty, out comes a naked man who is the most chiseled human I have ever seen. And call me Sherlock Holmes, but I think I figured this one out, guys. I think I figured out why no one's wearing pants.
He's not a pervert. This is Charlie. Okay, he's sort of a pervert, but in a good way.
That's not a thing. That is not a thing. Good pervert? What? Who wrote that? Who wrote that down and said that's, yeah, we're doing that. So this naked man is Charlie, who now lives with Valentina and Sophie after Valentina met Charlie at Fashion Week in London. And the only backstory we learn about Charlie is that he literally stems from royalty. However, when Sophie goes to check her phone, she realizes she doesn't have it. She actually has Sid's phone. Remember Sid? He was the really cool one. So they head off to Pemberton's, a bar that isn't McLaren's, and I'm starting to wonder why this show is in the Gumaverse and why it can't just tell its own story. Sophie walks into the bar and is faced by every single person screaming in her face. Surprise. It's a surprise engagement. You know, you remember Sid? With everyone hiding, I think it's a good time to introduce a new character. This is Ellen. She's Jesse's adopted sister, and the only thing going for her character is that she's forgettable. That's the joke, is that, like, they're like, oh, I forgot about you, which would actually work if you just didn't have her appear in, like, 3 episodes, and she just comes back and like, oh, we totally forgot about you. Like, that's how you do that. It's not hard. There is this one good joke from Charlie, though.
Have you taken the train yet? It's an underground freak show.
We get it. You hated the train.
Inside of the broom closet, which is widely known as the best place to have character progression, Jesse tells Sophie his intentions of never getting into marriage, and I don't know about anyone else, but does Jesse look kind of familiar to you?
You are the guy from the video.
Right. Jesse is that one guy from that one video on YouTube.com, home of every single video ever created. You see, Jesse got rejected when he was proposing to his longtime girlfriend, and, oh, what, you gonna cry? Gonna cry? Your girlfriend broke your heart? Oh, so sad, so sad. What's wrong? You gonna cry? Yes, you gonna see mommy? Back inside the bar, it's surprise time, and Sid, remember he was the cool, makes that sappy speech every man is required to make when they propose.
You know how to get to the stomach? You take the splenic route. This is the girl for me.
Wait. That's when you knew you guys were gonna be together forever? Let's just keep going, dog. Sid pops the question and she says yes, because Sid is that fucking cool. Sophie tells Sid about ye old phone swap, and Valentina calls Charlie a prissy royal bitch, which, I don't know, felt kind of unearned. Charlie's kind of cool to me. Not as cool as Sid, though. Speaking of our king, his fiancée has to leave her own engagement party because she has bought a lung on the black market. I'm lying to you again. She is a surgeon. Sophie tells Jesse not to give up on love of what we'll just call a kerfuffle for now, and tells him an actually compelling story about how she's never walked the Brooklyn Bridge, waiting for the man she's going to spend the rest of her life with, which is actually kind of cute, but left me with one question. How's she get into the Mets game, am I right, fellas? Jesse responds to this by asking if Sophie's parents have been the type to stay together their whole life. That every marriage would typically go this way. Which, yeah, I kinda agree, Jesse, but goddamn, you are dragging this shit down. How are you becoming so unlikable? So they're all airport bound. I forgot to mention they're all going to the airport for different reasons. Sid's fiancée is headed back to LA because she has to perform emergency surgery, which I'm gonna call bullshit on because it's a 6.5-hour flight across the United States. And Sophie is off to tell Ian that they have to be in love. Totally not crazy.
Ian.
Sophie? What are you?
I've been on 87 Tinder dates this year.
Oh, look at cool girl who's been on 87 Tinder dates. What, you want a fucking trophy? Listen, I never won a trophy as a kid, so this is the best I can do. Ian tells her how between Australia and New York is a actual 14-hour time difference, and there's no chance they can make this work, but, you know, they leave that door open. Maybe someday. In a nice callback to 6 minutes ago, Sophie walks the Brooklyn Bridge, and god damn! This had a real fucking chance to be something good, okay? They just had to film it on the Brooklyn Bridge, but they didn't. Listen, I'm not a filmmaker. I don't even have a damn clue how hard the job of a location scout could be for a filmmaker. But this whole moment gets soured by a terrible green screen. Don't get me wrong, How I Met Your Mother had some god-awful sets, but when they needed to move locations, they did. Imagine how terrible it would have been if you saw the scene of Ted and Robin walking on the beach, and it's so clearly a set with sand on the ground. you can tell it's fake, and you can tell it's like, are you really trying to make this moment special, or just trying to wait until you get paid? The gang, if that's what I have to call them, keep walking down the bridge, and Jesse goes over to Valentina, and we get the most made-for-TV dialogue. It's painful.
Sophie's mom is a party girl who bounces around from boyfriend to boyfriend. Her dad wasn't even in the picture. The only thing magical about Sophie's life is that she still believes in love at all.
So these strangers walk off with each other, and we get the only callback from Guma, showing Sid lives in Marshall and Lily's apartment. They all drink together, and that's it.
I'm gonna talk to all my freaks out there! Would you ready?
After really watching it again, How I Met Your Father isn't actually that bad. It has its kinks to work out, but it really has the potential to be something good. I loved the in memory of Bob Saget at the end, and I thought it was beautiful. But listen, it won't make up for the fact that these are just literal strangers you pushed together and just called them best friends and thought that your audience was just gonna believe it. These people need to actually get to know each other. The reason why it worked in How I Met Your Mother is because it was established these people are already friends. There were numerous times they weren't afraid to go back before the show started to show that these people lived a life before this show started. But with How I Met Your Father, I just can't actually believe that's the case. For real, why is this show called How I Met Your Father? It can be telling its own story, and the only reason why it has How I Met Your blank attached to it is just so people have a chance to recognize the name from 10 years ago. Leave the show that was fucking good to be let to rest. There are zero tie-ins to How I Met Your Mother at all. The bar that Jesse works at / runs, I don't know. It's called Pemberton's, when you could have called it fucking McLaren's. They had a genuine chance to give fans of How I Met Your Mother a reason to watch this show. They could have showed an exterior of the G&B building, or had a news headline from Metro News 1. Something really small to show, hey, we did a little bit of our homework. None of the charm from Guma is even here with us, but I feel like what's important to note is that every TV show kind of begins like this. It has to work out its kinks, figure out what the show does right. You know, when an artist that you really love, you go back and listen to their original stuff, their original work, and you're like, this sounds way different than what I remember. It's because you've come to know and understand what makes that artist themselves. It took that artist time to find themselves as well, and when they do it and know they do it well. The show needs its time to work out its kinks. Maybe there's a running joke that just doesn't hit the same, and, you know, you see it in the beginning, and maybe the show will go on for 9 seasons, and we'll think, yeah, that was pretty weird. Very rarely does a show get everything that it functions right off the bat, and, I mean, when it does, it's a TV show of the generation, like The Succession and Sopranos, things like that. How I Met Your Father has the potential to be something really good. I mean, I just talked about it for the last, 17 minutes, so obviously I do. And I wish I could talk about the things that the show does really well, but because there's so few and far in between, it doesn't even feel like it's worth listing. So, I'll continue to watch it and give the show a chance, and it'd be really cool to see the show get better, and even make a sequel to this video in a way to see how has the show improved over the years. But, you know, that just means that the showrunners have to put in a little bit more thought. God forbid. At this point, you all know the drill by now. Thank you so much for watching this video. It is with my utmost gratitude that you decided to give me your time. You can leave a like and subscribe if you want to. I have absolutely zero control over that in the end. So simply thank you so much for giving me your time, and I will see you all the next time I'm looking at you.